What about you? Who have you worked with? Who? Now, come on, it's only fair.
Chevy Chase was
really.
I wanted to quit the business after working with him.
Really? What was the movie? Forgive me.
Memoirs of an Invisible Man. He was a producer on this thing, and he wanted to be a serious actor.
That's a mistake.
Now, big time mistake.
So you're directing, and he's like got this attitude.
Oh yeah, it was bad.
Was it one of those things where they had to shut things down?
No, it never got that way. I took it all in. I just internalized it. But that was my worst.
I am from beyond. Listen, and all you desire will be yours. Welcome to Spider-Dan and the Secret Doors. Prepare for Prattle.
He says we're going the wrong way.
Oh, he's drunk. How would he know where we're going?
Yeah, how would he know? Thank you. Thanks a lot. Terrific.
Thank you.
What a moron.
You're going in the wrong direction!
Welcome to Prattle World. I am your host, the ever-amazing, ever-spectacular Spider-Dan. And in this podcast, I spotlight entertainment's best-kept secrets that a mainstream audience may find boring. And welcome to Wrong Direction, where we look at a popular director's less successful work and try to determine what led them down this road. It's been a long wait, guys. You have voted quite vehemently against this for a long, long time in the Patreon poll. We decided to do our top 5 corrupt CEOs instead. Angry Andy returns for the podcast that he was always meant to do, which was John Carpenter's Memoirs of an Invisible Man. We finally got there, Andy. Ben Crampton beat you. I'd lost to you, really, in regards to the vote. So how do you feel that we've finally gotten to sit down and watch this film together?
What an absolute waste of everyone's time.
You're not burying the lead on this one, are you?
Not at all. This has been a long journey that's led to absolute misery. I'm going to be honest with you.
About 6 months or so of people voting against you and me covering this.
Yeah, and as time wore on, I kind of was like, just let it die. Just let it die, because this film's not very good, is it?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I've not even seen it. I knew it was going to be terrible. And thus, as was thought, has come to pass. And God, everybody would be really grateful for it, wouldn't they? Oh well, never mind.
never mind. But yeah, so yeah, I think it was about 5 or 6 months, I believe, you were being voted. You know, you were pit against somebody else. I will say, for fairness, it was not something you'd picked.
No,
in most of these polls of guest versus guest, people tend to choose what they want to do and, you know, defend or talk about whatever they want to do. It's usually their option, their choice. But because we didn't do this, I put it to a poll with Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and the runner-up remains on. But don't worry, next year we're doing guest versus host. So the only person who can be disappointed is me from now on. Don't worry. And I'm going to inject a bit more weirdness back into the old podcast. Not that it really needs that. It's still pretty fucking weird, let's be honest. But yes, we're doing this. This is your first Wrong Direction, and I think this is a format that is, you know, most of these formats are probably built around you anyway, Andy, to be honest, on some level.
bless your heart.
But we're going to be talking about John Carpenter, and, you know, these directors have, you know, poorer films in their filmography, and I chose this one. We were just discussing off air then, like, what do I go with? I didn't want to go with Ghosts of Mars because Jack and Max had already covered that during the Back to the Filmography Statham that journey. I didn't want to talk about that. I didn't want to do the Ward with Johnny Depp's former wife because, again, controversial figure, and I feel it was a bit late in Carpenter's career at that point, so it was kind of tailing off, so I kind of felt it wasn't really in his era. I thought about Escape from LA, but I don't know if I really wanted to watch that again, frankly. Not that it was awful, but it's not great. Bit of a retread.
No, yeah.
So I settled on this, which is, in his words, his least favourite film. He does not like to discuss it, does not like to talk about it. When he does, which is only really recently, in the last few years, he's started talking about this again and his experience on the film. And, you know, he was very diplomatic to begin with, and eventually it kind of came out that he had a lot of issues with the studio, with the stars of the film, with the direction, the tone, you name it. Basically everything to do with making this film, there was an issue for him, and it was a big studio film. He's shied away from big studio films in the past, like Big Trouble in Little China was his last really big one. We talked about Starman as well, not so long ago. So it's going to be interesting to discuss this one. But before we get into that, Andy, let's talk about John Carpenter, his influence. I've talked about him a lot previously, and I think with you as well, about how big an influence he has on cinema and genre filmmaking and just, you know, filmmaking and Hollywood in general.
Well, it's quite clear that he's always pushing ideas, isn't he? And he's always very centered on the exact kind of film he wants to make. Whether that be, you know, The Thing or even vampires, which is I have a long love for vampires, for John Carpenter's vampires, because it's fucking shite. It's absolute shite, but you can't deny, like, it's almost,
It's got charm. It's got charm.
it's got a weird sort of charm to it. Like, you can tell it's arse, but for whatever reason it grabs you. If you're a fan of that specific genre, if you're a fan of vampire movies, you're a fan of, you know, gory horror, even, you know, some really well done fucking prosthetic horror, then it does grab you. It grabs you straight away. But for me, like, whenever I think of John Carpenter, I immediately think of The Thing, and whether that's just because it struck me perfectly when I watched it the very first time. I was fucking terrified by The Thing, absolutely terrified by it. Didn't know what was going on. It was around about that time when I'd watched Alien and Aliens and was just ramping up sci-fi movies and sci-fi horror, you know, back to back to back, and the Thing sort of said something completely different to me, you know, away from what Alien had said and what Aliens had said and all these other movies as well. Even like Total Recall, like, it said something completely different. Like, just how tight it was and how compact and how well paced and structured everything was. The horror, how inch perfect it was. And I think it's always been the marker of John Carpenter, hasn't it? Just the sheer ability he's got to create, you know, terror, wonder in the smallest moments, and yet we come to this, and I don't know what the hell was going on.
We'll save that, Andy. We'll save it. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Let's talk about the good stuff, though. Let's stick to the positive stuff.
He's got a long history, hasn't he? I mean, it's almost, you know, redundant of me to say anything, because everybody knows who John Carpenter is, whether it be the music, the legendary films. It's redundant for me to, you know, just to spew off, you know, how great a director he is, because we know how great a director he is.
Sure.
The Fog, Halloween, all sorts.
Yeah,
They live.
But Andy, there are people that might be listening who have no idea who he is, have never heard of him, don't know what he's so famous for.
What are you doing with your life?
Agreed. But there will be some people out there who don't know, or might want to know more. But for me, like, John Carpenter is arguably the most influential genre filmmaker ever. Like, he doesn't, like, people call him a master of horror, but he doesn't just purely do horror. He loves westerns. He was a lover of the work of Howard Hawks, like, big influence on him. And the what he does, I think, especially well in all of his films, is tension and the rising tension. He does slow burn storytelling, but it works. You know, it builds a universe, I think, in each of his films quite spectacularly. and then when you get to the end, it's worth the wait, it's worth the payoff, and you've built those relationships and stuff. And again, he is it's simplicity for him in every regard to his filmmaking technique. It's simplicity, and that's not to say, this is not in regards to like, oh, he's simple, he's it's dumb or it's plain boring filmmaking. It's not. It's straightforward. There are twists and turns in his tales, but the way he presents the characters and presents the stories and the antagonists and the struggles are it's very straightforward, very matter of fact, but always very entertaining, very unique. Even his more like esoteric stuff, which is like, In the Mouth of Madness, the kind of Lovecraftian, Prince of Darkness. Prince of Darkness I'm not a massive fan of personally, but again, I enjoy it. The visuals are amazing, the idea. I also think, when I think of John Carpenter, I think kind of he's in that kind of school of George A. Romero as well. There's always, even though it's entertaining and it's fun, there's always something being said. Like he hates pretension. Like he doesn't like hearing like David Cronenberg, a fellow horror director, kind of intellectualize his films. He's very much like, this is my film. I've said it. It's all on the screen. It's in the script. If you don't like it or don't understand it, that's you. But that's it there. It doesn't matter how I got there. That's the final product.
Yeah, and that's why I hate the recent stuff that's come out about people trying to finally bring an answer to the way the thing ends. Like that's popped up again, like from almost nowhere. And I don't know whether it's somebody who worked on the film or whatever that's sort of ushered in that discussion. But I don't need that answer.
No,
I don't need that answer because, like you say, everything is said in the film. It's the magic of the unknown. You don't have to have an answer for fucking everything. And a lot of products that come out now, I would call them products because that's all they seem to be. They get just flushed out and they're connecting to this, they're connecting to that, and oh, here's a cameo, here's this, here's that. And it's like, okay, that works if you're actually servicing something greater. But a lot of the time it's not. It's just to make you have that rush of endorphins and go, oh, this is great, it's fucking brilliant. Whereas there's something to be said for those terrifying small moments where you go, oh, what does that mean? What does it mean? And it leaves you with that inescapable sort of aftertaste of, oh, I don't get it. I don't understand it. I'm horrified by that. We get that in Halloween. You get those unanswered questions in Halloween. That's where he's always excelled for me. Is those small moments that you kind of go, it's just genius, but what does it mean? And you come away from it.
And he even regretted it when he wrote Halloween 2, which he said he did with like a 6-pack of beer. Like he answered some of those questions and did things clearly for a paycheck. He's made it quite clear that he does a lot of stuff for the money, but he regretted those actions. He regretted giving him a point or giving him a focus, like, oh, it's my sister, I need to kill my sister, that whole thing. And that was a mistake. I don't mind Halloween 2 as a film itself. I think it's fine, but I can see that there's something lost there. Like it was weird that he was chasing the trends of the other slasher films that had come out after, while trying to make a sequel to his original one, while kind of sort of ruining it as well. That's another thing. But I've always enjoyed that kind of his kind of political barbs that he will throw into, his various films. Like he's very anti-authoritarian, which is, I think, something we still need to this day, to be honest. But he's very, very open about criticizing, big business, sleazy execs. Look at things like They Live. The Catholic Church. The Catholic Church is always in there. In Vampires, they're the villain. In Prince of Darkness, they're kind of the villain. The critiquing of these institutions, and how they kind of consolidate power and money and the greed of it, and the working class man, I think, is a big part of his kind of hero dynamic. Again, he's smashing a lot of kind of preconceived like notions of what like a macho hero should be, which he especially does in Big Trouble in Little China. And like everyone goes in thinking Kurt Russell's the hero of the film when he's a fucking idiot. Like he's a complete, like an absolute, like the hero is the sidekick, he's the lead. But Kurt Russell, because he's the big, tough, white, straight dude coming into China, is going to kick some ass. But then he's injuring himself. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Which is exactly why that film like works for me. I think that's one of the absolute kind of bangers, and kind of avoids a lot of like negative kind of stereotypes about China and the Chinese and everything. And yes, it like. His entire filmography, like directors would wish to have such as solid as a filmography as John Carpenter has. I think most directors would be happy with that.
Yeah, and it's not that they're solid in terms of critical reception or critical ratings or even box office. A lot of them, kind of just hang around that middle ground. You have a look on IMDb, for example. A lot, even from like the audience scores, they sit at like the sevens, which is fine. They're in around that average. So they're not considered like upper echelon fucking movies, but they still hold an immense cultural weight. Even 20, 30 odd years down the line, nearly the frigging 40 odd years down the line.
Yeah.
They still hold this cultural weight. We still revere Halloween. We still look at They Live and go, it's still speaking a lot, the way, the way our lives are going at the moment. And like you said, Big Trouble in Little China still has, a lot of quality to it, a lot of, brilliant action beats to it. It speaks for itself that there's so many of his films land in that cultural, iconography. They're sealed in time. I'd be hard pressed to look at any other director's work, maybe apart from like Spielberg and Tarantino to a degree as well, and say, well, the majority of his films will be locked away and sealed as perfect examples of American cinema and American pop culture. I think you'd be hard pressed to look at, a good deal of any directors and go, oh, pretty much all of these are great.
Yeah,
not all of them are, but even you look at Elvis, which is
true.
It's not his typical formula, but it's fucking great. I prefer his Elvis to the recent one that came out a couple of years ago. I really do. I think the one that came out a couple of years ago was fart in the wind for me, but the one that he brought out in the mid '80s, late '70s, beg your pardon, a great movie. My nan really likes it as well.
There you go, it's a winner. If your nan's on board with Carpenter,
my nan's the fucking Elvis Presley fan. She's got so much memorabilia, even I didn't friggin' know about it. Fuck knows how, but yeah, there you go. So yeah. Sits on she's got. I remember seeing quite recently actually. She got the Austin Butler one. She got the DVD on the side. And I was like, oh, did you watch it? And she went, yeah, it was okay.
Yeah,
I prefer that old one. I was like, which one do you mean?
Yeah, there's a few.
Where Elvis is playing Elvis or what? That one from the late '70s. Yeah, I remember going to the cinema and watching that. I was like, oh, okay, all right, very good. There you go.
Yeah, I think another thing, like his filmmaking is obviously, his editing, his writing, there's a lot to be said there about how, again, he ratchets up the tension. But, famously, they showed Halloween without the soundtrack, without the score. And the executives thought it was a bag of shit, thought it was rubbish, wasn't going to do anything. But the second they put his score on there, they were like, oh shit, this is gonna sell, this is gonna do it. And again, became the most, the best, box office for an independent film of all time at that point, before the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came along and knocked it off the top spot. That was an independent film, believe it or not. That, he had that. And like you said, there's been, all of his films have not done very well in America, box office wise, not necessarily done very well critically. But I think as time's gone on, people have reevaluated everything he's done. And there's, the kids that grew up on his stuff, like us and various others, love him. And it's so strange as well that he would do so well in the VHS era when he was like widescreen. Everything has to be widescreen. That is the most cinematic way to view this.
Strange, isn't it?
Through this particular lens. I forget what the name of the lens he uses, but yeah, he's like, this is it. And there's so much detail in his in his widescreen presentations of his films.
But again, that's why it's still whenever one of his movies is re-released now in ultra high definition, it's instant buy. Like watching The Thing in 4K is fucking glorious.
Yeah.
Even They Live in 4K is fucking glorious because, like you say, the way that he shot it, the particular shots that he sets up, it comes across even all this time later, 40 years later, and that's when you've got a good movie or a quality movie, and you can watch something that is, in terms of time is dated, but still looks better than something that's come out fucking 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
There's so many films that come out now that are so immediately forgettable because they almost immediately become dated due to the effects they're using. When you can look at something like The Thing, like They Live, even Vampires, and go, all right, that effect they did where fucking the vampire shoves his hand through that guy and then rips him straight up and he falls apart. Even though it's it's a puppet, it's such a visceral fucking and it looks intense and there's blood spray and everything. You go, fucking hell. And you can still see that moment now and go, fucking hell, that's gruesome. And today it'd just be some CGI fucking bollocks, wouldn't it?
It would.
Because it's easy. Well, he didn't do anything easy. He did it fucking hard and difficult. And like you say, playing Halloween with no soundtrack and then, this is the difference it makes. Adding something in like that, something raw and quite simplistic, but it made all the difference. It changed everything.
Yeah, and that's I think it's the power that lies in the simplicity. I'm always a big fan of this is me as a Spider-Man fan saying that I love a good simple superhero costume or a simple design. Like Jean Grey's Phoenix outfit was meant to be all these kind of stars initially and like a sash, but they boiled it down to just having like green logo, sash, and everything, and it works. I think the simpler the design, the simpler the visual, I think sometimes makes it all the more powerful. And you were saying that he never It sounds strange, but he isn't one for gratuity. John Carpenter will always use action, gore, horror, visual effects, to tell a story. There's a reason for that being there.
Sell an impact.
Exactly. A great example is Assault on Precinct 13. Girl goes for an ice cream, and then a criminal shoots her in the chest and she's dead. That is the world they're living in. That sets the scene for when they have the assault on the precinct. That this is, even kids aren't fucking safe in this neighborhood. Even kids are going to be shot. Even nice smiley kids trying to get an ice cream are going to be shot dead. And you're in. And again, the score comes in and you're like, right, I'm sold. I am fully on board with the story you're trying to tell here. Just amazing. An amazing creator who is still creating. I wish he was still directing, but I like his scores. I still like his music. Apparently, he's going to do Bong Joon-ho's next film. That'll be interesting. We'll see. We'll see what that is or how that comes out.
Indeed.
But I wanted to list a few things that seem to me to be kind of kind of tropes or trademarks of John Carpenter that we've not already mentioned. So we talked about his simplicity, his minimalism in all of his aspects of being creative. We've talked about the slow burn world building. His lighting is minimal, yet very saturated. So like his nights are always very blue, aren't they? They're very like there's never like it's dark, but it's still well lit. Like especially in Escape from New York, where they're in these towers of all these huge skyscrapers.
Yeah,
you can really still tell every detail and where they are and what they're doing. It's not just there's a reason that he uses it and also the use of kind of negative space as well in his shot and in his framing. So famously that Halloween where she stabs him and, he goes down and she's there crying.
Yeah.
And you're like, you can see him just lying there and the space in the space in the screen. And it's like Terminator as well. Like they leave space there, that negative space, because something's going to fill it.
Yeah.
Something's going to fill it. Oh God, what's it going to be? Something's going to get us. And he absolutely kind of nails that as again, more suspense building. He's a fan of Hitchcock as well, who is, the master of suspense. He tends to use, again, widescreen and anamorphic lenses, is what I meant to say earlier. That's his kind of preferred view of cinema. It's the most cinematic viewing he prefers. We do see a lot of single locations that he tends to have long takes establishing, making sure you know what's going to happen, like The Fog, it's the town. Assault on Precinct 13, it's the precinct. The Thing, it's the outpost. It tends to be these, or the church in Prince of Darkness. He tends to really establish those places with their own character before any of the crazy shit later on that occurs. He really gets you, this is the location, this is the geography, which again is something I complain about in Alien 3. Like when they go into the furnace, you don't know where the fuck anyone is or what the fuck or what the layout is.
Care as a result.
Exactly. That's exactly right. You don't care. When people die, you're like, were they there? I don't even fucking care.
They all look the same.
Yeah, they're all bald. They're all, and it's edited in a way where it's a fucking mess anyway. So like that always drives me mad. So the fact that he takes the time to do this, and I'm sure modern critics would be like, oh, it's slow and it's not really getting to the point. I'm like, no, this is it. There's a reason for this. So then when we do get to those tension-filled moments, we know, we're saying, don't run up the stairs, bitch, that sort of thing, we know what we should do. And then when the characters don't do it, that's when it's an issue. They also tend to be set over a short amount of time, quite usually like a few days or maybe 24 hours or something, which again I think ratchets up that tension for the film and the characters as well. He tends to use kind of Western tropes in different genres as well, kind of playing around with that and what is a macho anti-hero and things. We see a lot of his characters get really hurt and injured. They're not like, I can take anything, this classic John Wayne, they're very injured, but it's that old Indiana Jones thing where it's what they can overcome and how they can overcome it usually with their smarts, their intelligence, not their fists, usually is how they win the day. We talked about the cynicism of the police force and the Catholic Church and Reagan-era politics in They Live and the consumerism. There's a lot of that. But yeah, the use of Panaglides and Steadicams as well is a big thing. And he said how it has a kind of creepy effect that it kind of imitates being a human, quite well, which is kind of maybe on the forefront of kind of the found footage stuff as well. Unique sound design, I think, speaking of The Thing, the creatures and the noises they make, without those noises, those shots are not interesting or not, the guy that turns around and his hands are all weird and he makes that alien scream. Exactly, great impression. That scene has got nothing without that scream. That's got there's nothing there.
Terrifying.
Yeah. Often he has bittersweet endings usually, or bad endings for the characters. Things don't tend to end well a lot of the time for his characters.
Yeah.
For the most part. and there's a Lovecraftian influence, which you were talking about, like the sense of the unknown and the madness, and you know, that kind of all that kind of weird, dark, murky stuff. And he also does like mood dissonance quite well. So we'll see, like in Halloween, like, you know, the schoolgirls are walking down, you know, in bright sunlight, lovely day, just walking back from school, but he's playing this very menacing theme, you know, and then Michael shows up, and they're like, oh, well, what's that? You know, there's this. Again, to quote Superhands from Peep Show, there's a sense of dread. There's a real sense of dread in a lot of his films. But yeah, I just wanted to mention those things. I don't know if there's anything I've mentioned here that you haven't thought of or wanted to comment on.
No, it's very, there's just a lot, isn't there?
Yeah,
A hell of a lot.
Yeah,
Like I said, it'd just be pointless for me to add anything to that, really. It's just literally so expansive what he offers and what he brings to the table.
Exactly. Speaking of expansive, let's talk a little bit about the pre-production, the production, and the post-production on Memoirs of an Invisible Man, Andy. What do you know about this?
I said to you before we started recording that I took one look at one article, and literally the first paragraph was about how much John Carpenter hated this movie, and I thought, all right, that's enough. I don't need to look at anything further. Having watched it, you can tell that it's not right across the board. You can tell that it's just completely misguided in every single step of the way. And the only thing that I do know is that he replaced Ivan Reitman, and you can kind of see it. You can kind of see those, you know, the situational comedy moments underneath it, you know, sort of the Ghostbusters kind of humor in a way. And you can kind of see it and you can kind of feel it. But obviously, I think that's a lot because Chevy Chase is in there as well. And I think it's quite clearly that nobody was having a good time. Nobody was having a good time. Nobody wanted to be there. Nobody wanted to do it. And then obviously nobody cared afterwards either. I think that's this film's been forgotten for a very good reason. And it speaks for itself. When I watched it, I sort of went, Christ almighty. This is the reason I never actively sought this film out, despite having watched pretty much everything else he's made. I just didn't bother. You know, I haven't watched that one that you mentioned, The Ward. I've not seen that one. To be honest with you, can't say I ever really knew about it either. But this one, you know, I was aware of it. I just, for whatever reason, you know, maybe it was the gods telling me not to do it. And again, it's strange because I do like, you know, these classic monsters, you know, the H.G. Wells kind of, you know, creature, and you know, I just don't know why I didn't ever seek this out, and I think it's because of this. They've obviously tried to bury it.
Sure,
They're not going to do a 30th anniversary or 40th anniversary release, are they? You know, it's just going to fade away into obscurity.
Yeah, I mean, it is on Blu-ray, so if you want to watch it in HD, it's available there for you. But yeah, I'm kind of the same. I did a comic book recently, which is like Sherlock Holmes in a Case of Blind Fear for the Patreon, which is Sherlock Holmes versus H.G. Wells' Invisible Man. I love the original Universal horror movie. I think it's the best Universal horror movie. I know there's Dracula and Frankenstein, The Mummy, and Creature from the Black Lagoon, and Phantom of the Opera, but that one for me is the one. It's the James Whale film. I think is like pretty much perfect as it goes, and I think the effects at the time are incredible. Me and Rasheen a while back covered The Hollow Man as well.
Oh yeah,
which again is kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. I quite enjoy. Again, great special effects in that, and some ideas that they kind of played around with. I like the latest Invisible Man with Elizabeth Moss. I thought that was good. The Lee Winnell one.
I did.
But yeah, same here. Like I never kind of went out of my way to watch it. I don't know if I'm not a massive fan of Chevy Chase. I know you like Christmas Vacation.
I think that's the only thing I film apart from him being in Community. I think that's the only. Again, he fucking burned that bridge, didn't he?
Yeah, quite quick.
Yeah, that's. beyond that, I can't really say that I've really watched anything else of his stuff. I think I've seen all the other vacation movies, but they've not had any sort of impact on me at all. I don't know what it is about Christmas Vacation.
I feel like Chevy Chase is definitely like a film star from like maybe the generation before us. I feel like they might have had more of a fondness for him and his work. But I think for me and you,
our generation, it was Carey, wasn't it?
yeah, pretty much. Like, I mean, you're what, you born 87, I'm 88,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Fucking old.
yeah, exactly. But then this was out in 91, so it's kind of really passing us by, kind of, really. Where like Jurassic Park and all these other ones probably going to take us by. We'll have been watching cartoons at this point, really, before we've seen anything like this. So
getting in divers at this point.
Yeah. Still am. So
I'm converting.
So this
it's all
is
going wrong for me.
It's all going downhill. So H.F. Saint wrote a treatment for a novel that Chevy's agent got to him and was like, "Hey, what do you think of this novel?" And he went, "I love it. It's great. Let's make a movie out of it." And then there was a bidding war. I think this is what I want to say. This is Warner Brothers, isn't it? It's Warner Brothers, I think.
Oh God.
I'm gonna say it's Warner Brothers, but they bid $1.4 million for the book rights because Chevy said he wanted to do it. Now, Chevy's idea was that he wanted to explore the idea of kind of loneliness and isolation and the real mechanics of living a life with being invisible, like it's a debilitating illness or something. He wanted to explore that, which I think is actually kind of interesting. And there's moments in this film where they do kind of explore the real kind of applications and kind of disabilities of being an invisible man, which is interesting. I'm kind of would have liked to have seen that. However, the studio, because it's Chevy Chase, they wanted a comedy film. So all the way through this, like you mentioned, all the way through this, it has an identity issue from the very get-go, from the very beginning.
It has no idea what it wants to be, this film.
Yeah.
It's got no idea what it wants to be. Scary, elusive, hilarious, poignant. It's got no idea. It doesn't have a frigging clue at all, any moment.
Yeah. And they hire William Goldman, who is a 2-time Academy Award-winning screenwriter. He wrote Marathon Man, the book. He wrote Princess Bride, the book. Heat, which is what me and Jack talked about on Back to the Filmography with Wildcard and the Burt Reynolds movie. So he wrote the original novel of that. So he is like top-tier kind of talent. I think he won for Butch Cassidy and maybe The Sting. I think he wrote The Sting, maybe. One of those. Oh no, it's all the President's Men. All the President's Men he wrote as well. Like big Robert Redford fan, clearly. So yeah, he's there.
Isn't?
He's there and he's writing. And apparently he said, "I'm too old and I'm too rich for this shit." To Chevy Chase's face, apparently, to be writing and fucking about with this. And apparently he left.
Too old for this shit.
Too old for this shit. And he left, and he was like, and apparently he was like, he's not sure if he even said that, but apparently even he still hadn't been paid properly. He's never seen the film. He's dead now. He's definitely not going to see it now. But he basically said he would sue, but then I don't think he did sue, but I think he just kind of left it. But apparently they didn't pay him for his entire work. But you're right. Ivan Reitman came on board for several months and started discussing, but Chevy wanted it this way, and the studio wanted it this way. And then Reitman put an ultimatum down and said, "It's either me or Chase," because Chase is one of these people who is known to be difficult to work with.
Yeah.
And we'll talk more about that shortly. But the studio chose Chase because it's attached to him. The bidding war happened. They want Chase in the movie. So they're going to do it. Richard Donner, the director of Lethal Weapon, Superman, and many more, he was attached for about 8 months, and then he left. And then somebody suggested John Carpenter because they needed somebody who had special effects kind of knowledge or working with special effects. And Richard Donner had that with Superman and other films. So they were like, we need somebody like that. And Chevy was like, excellent, get John Carpenter. And the studio needed convincing. they needed convincing. So Chevy argued that he was the right guy because they thought of him as a kind of a horror director. They were like, we're gonna go with him. He's the guy. And he had a few films kind of fall through, like a film with Cher. There was a version of Dracula he was going to do, and he was going to do Exorcist 3 as well. But he was also in some legal difficulty with the company, the indie company who made They Live. I don't think he'd been paid properly as well.
Yeah.
So he was kind of in a bit of a rut. You know, he'd done Starman and done They Live and hadn't done a film for a while. He didn't like working with big studios, as we said, but he thought, fuck it, money's good. He likes Chevy Chase. He wants to work with Chevy Chase, so let's go. And then he encounters all the problems that entails. So he's trying to please the studio by trying to make it a funny comedy with Chevy. He's trying to please Chevy, who wants to make it this serious, because he wants to be a serious actor and he wants to be this pretentious kind of, role for him. So he's trying to please him. Chevy is not getting along well. Apparently, Daryl Hannah was a bit of a problem as well. They were both like we'll get into the film when we get there, but we will get there. But the Chevy hated having to wear like all the blue. ILM did all the effects, and they had to make him wear all this blue stuff, blue contact lenses, blue food coloring on his teeth to absolutely make him fully invisible. And he apparently one day just pulled, when a shot wasn't done, he pulled the contact lenses out because they were causing him such discomfort. And John Carpenter was so annoyed he broke a clipboard over his knee. He was that fucking pissed off. And there is some, if you want to look it up, there's like a vintage kind of on the site, kind of behind the scenes, and you can tell how fucking fuming he is because Chevy's like dicking about in the background, and he's just doesn't want to be there. Like if you can quite easily find it online. Yeah. I think it's on the Blu-ray as well. But he's like fuck all of this, and yeah, Daryl Hannah was would act like a prima donna. Chevy's acting like a prima donna, but because they're in with the studio, he can't go to the studio and go, these guys are being a nightmare. He just had to kind of, as he says, he internalized it, the issues and the problems, and he just was like, let's just get this fucking done. Let's just get this done and go. And I think you can see that in the film, that he's not got as much creative freedom, and he's not got as much flair as he usually does. No. And yeah, which is kind of it. But yeah, in a nutshell, not a good production. He did slyly mention I'll read this quote actually because it's quite good. It's quite a good quote. Where are we here? Yes, here it is. So he says, it gave me a chance to make a quasi-serious movie, which is the reason he accepted it. But Chevy Chase, Sam Neill, who I love and had a long-time friendship with, and Warner Brothers, I worked for them and it was pleasant. No, it wasn't pleasant at all. I'm lying to you. It was a horror show. I really wanted to quit the business after that movie. God, I don't want to talk about why, but let's just say there were personalities on that film, he shall not be named, who needs to be killed. No, that's terrible. He needs to be set on fire. No. Anyway, it's all fine. I survived it.
It leaves nothing to the imagination, does it?
No. And that was in 2023, so he's left it. He's been very diplomatic about it for some time. And he said this film almost made him quit the business. Forget the ward. We get to the ward eventually, but this was the one where he went, fuck all of this bullshit. Like all of this money, all of this crap. But Andy, I think we talked.
Wild.
It's a wild story. But I know you've been dying to do this, so there's a few things I wanted to mention as well. Shirley Walker. And initially it was going to be Jack Nietzsche who did the score for Starman, which we covered. But Shirley Walker was noticed by Chevy conducting an orchestra when they were doing Christmas Vacation, and Shirley Walker was hired. So I think Chevy had to convince or had to tell Carpenter to pull Nietzsche out, or maybe Nietzsche decided he didn't want to do it, and Shirley Walker went in, and she's the first woman to do a major Hollywood picture and score it all herself.
Nice.
Amazing. She worked on Batman the Animated Series as well, because they couldn't afford Danny Elfman, so she went on board, and she had an amazing career. I think she's a fantastic composer. Her work is amazing and continues to be. She's no longer with us, but like incredible. Her back catalogue is incredible. But yeah, let's get to it, Andy.
That's probably the one bright spark in all of this fucking mess, then, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. Go on.
Aside from Sam Neill, to be fair,
I was going to say
enjoyed Sam Neill in this.
Yeah, I think he's great in this. I think the score is good. I think the special effects are brilliant. I think they really do hold up, even under like a Blu-ray.
Yeah, to be fair,
I'll give it.
Effects.
You got to give it to them. ILM are doing stuff, and they're figuring out how to do stuff in incredible ways.
Yeah.
We've only got is Terminator out this year as well? 1991, I think. Terminator 2.
I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like it's Terminator 2 is 1991.
Hang on, let's double
have
check.
a look. We'll look at the internet. The internet has all the answers. I think it is.
Yeah, a year before.
Oh, year before. There we go. Yeah. Well, there we have it. So, we can see that special effects are coming on. Speaking of Sam Neill, Jurassic Park's coming up very shortly.
Yeah.
This is kind of the era for like groundbreaking special effects, and I think if we didn't have those two films sandwiching this one, I think this one would be better remembered for special effects if it wasn't such a dumpster fire of a film.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. I think that's the problem fundamentally with it. It doesn't matter how good the effects are. If the basics of your film are shite, then it doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter, because you're not going to be remembered for anything apart from backstage, behind the scenes issues. You can spend all the money in the world, on making something spectacular and incredible, like the Spider-Man theatrical masterpiece that never came to fruition because they spent how much they spend on that. You remember when that was coming out, 10, 15 years ago, maybe longer? Spider-Man in theaters. They did that whole big theater show, and
the musical.
Yeah, the musical.
Yeah. No, they did it. It came out.
Fucking hundreds of millions, and then shut it down in 6 months.
You should read the book, Andy. You would if we're talking about shit like this.
That's what I'm getting to.
You should read the book.
Making. It doesn't matter how much money you fucking spend. It doesn't matter all the effects you're using. If the basics in your production, the basics in your storytelling, the basics even in fucking having a concrete idea of what you're trying to say and do, if that's not there, then it amounts to fucking nothing. You may as well just piss in the wind, which is what this movie does for me. It amounts to nothing because I honestly, I said it a bit earlier, I don't know what they're going for. I think I messaged you the other day saying there's no tension in the threat. There's no laughs in the comedy. There's no reward for the effects either. We get all those brilliant effects right the way through the movie, and then we come to the end, and they don't even utilize the effects meaningfully in the end. It's bizarre.
It's like gags. They're kind of like gags.
Yeah, it's just a gag and a ploy to get Sam Neill. Spoilers. To get Sam Neill to fucking. Oh, and I hated the way that he goes out. I was like, are they going to do something clever here? And he's just
it was like Three
fell to
Stooges.
his fucking death.
It was like Three Stooges or something. Yeah.
Yeah, really. That's the way we.
So
fuck off.
I agree with you.
That was the cherry on the cake of pissing me off in watching this film. Because I was like, Sam Neill's a really great character. I wonder if they're going to turn it around so that, mutual. Oh no, he just falls to his fucking death. Get fucked.
I 100% agree with you. But for the people that haven't seen the film, Andy,
I did say spoilers.
Yeah, you did say spoilers. But for the people that haven't seen the film, can you give us a brief synopsis of this film? You're going to refuse. You're just going to downright refuse to do it.
So it's a bit convoluted, really, isn't it? The synopsis, because he works for some fucking law firm or something, and he goes to some.
I honestly did. I had no idea why he's there. I had no idea what the fuck he did for for like, I think it's something about like stocks and bonds, maybe,
Yeah,
because
he's
he
got
talks
a
about
Chandler Bing job.
manipulating the market later on in the film.
Yeah, he's got a Chandler Bing job, and he goes to some fucking convention where some scientist is talking about miraculous fucking properties they've discovered, which actually has no links to the fucking technique which makes him invisible.
No, so it's a
Got
complete
nothing. It's just-
accident, complete
Yeah,
fluke.
it's completely freak accident. And then Chevy Chase has had enough, so he goes and has a lie down in a sauna. Huh? And then
I love that
happens.
a sauna is next to all this really, really expensive equipment.
This really tiny building as well. When you get to the external shot, it's like they have all this. They have a big auditorium in here, and they've got a sauna in there, and they've got a big fucking.
What are
They've
we
got
doing?
a big
What are we
laboratory
doing?
as well, where they're fucking with time and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what happens. It's just some bumbling idiot fucking.
All right. Don't worry, Andy. Don't worry. I'll do it.
It's what happens though. The bumbling idiot knocks something over, and it literally sets everything on fire, and like everything goes wrong. Everyone evacuates the building, but because Chevy Chase is hiding in the sauna, he can't hear the alarm.
Yeah.
Really, and then it all goes wrong. It activates this fucking device or something, and half the building goes invisible. It's a great effect. It looks really good, actually.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like Swiss cheese of like this building phasing in and out of invisibility and whatever. And obviously Chevy Chase wakes up and he's sat inside the building. He can see there's like all bits and pieces, and it does actually look really fucking cool.
Yeah, really good.
You can see like brickwork and bits and pieces of office furniture, like, cut in half. Half of them are invisible, and he realizes he's invisible at this point. And it kind of all spirals from there. And Sam Neill's this CIA agent. He's a very bad man.
Yeah. It's
He murdered people and does right the way through the movie.
Well, they describe it as wet work, don't they? They say we do wet work, which is interesting.
He gets tasked to, rather incredibly go and to this area because he's conveniently in the location and lock it down. And that's when he discovers that there's actually a man that's invisible and he's to bring him in. But it doesn't go to plan, and Chevy escapes, and it's basically a chase movie that grinds to a fucking halt in the middle.
I was going to say we'll get to that. But before we get this, we have this. They try and establish Chevy's character, but he's a bit aloof. He doesn't really care. He doesn't have many friends. He's not close to anyone. But he's also a narcissist as well. Somehow, I'm like,
there's a whole scene in the restaurant where
he meets Daryl Hannah. Yeah, he's got Michael McKean's his mate. They absolutely waste Michael McKean in this.
Oh, fucking yes,
fucking absolute waste of that actor. He's great in pretty much everything I've seen him in, but they give him fuck all in this.
Yeah.
And they basically I don't know if they're trying to make him likable or not likable. It's really confusing.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't tell you if I was supposed to like him or whether he was an arsehole and then he was going to have like a redemptive arc, or like he didn't like to be seen in this way but wanted to be seen in another way, and that would be the arc. Like that would have been interesting maybe, but they don't do that.
No, it's just a simple I'm invisible now.
Yeah.
I wish that people could see me.
That's it, yeah.
Okay.
That's it. It's there is moments. I don't like the voiceover as well. I think the voiceover is atrocious.
It doesn't fit at all, does it? Because the voiceover doesn't carry over to the parts where Sam Neill's involved or parts where Daryl Hannah is just involved. It doesn't carry over. It's literally just, and it's so stop-start as well in the voiceover. It's not like, I'm trying to think of a film which does voiceover really good, like Goodfellas, for example.
Yeah.
It's part of the
not
movie,
consistent.
it's part of the identity of the movie, and yet it doesn't feel like it's intruding on everything you see. Whereas the voiceover for this, you kind of go, oh, okay, I'm listening, but it's not really telling me anything interesting.
Yeah,
it's bizarre.
It's usually when he's trying to explain what it's like to see it out the top of his head and not have eyelids and trying to eat food without your hands.
Yeah.
You don't need to tell us that, but I bet you it was a studio note. I bet they were like, we need to know exactly what he's doing because it's not very clear. And I think another studio note was this. It is interesting that not only does he become invisible, it's not like a serum like in a lot of these. It's like a serum they inject, or in Lee Whannell's one, it's a suit with a load of cameras, like James Bond's car, reflecting the kind of opposite side. It's an energy wave, that affects the building in him. So it also means his clothes are invisible as well. So all of the clothes that he wears are invisible. So that again is kind of an interesting little wrinkle to it. And I think a thing as well is them showing him being visible for our benefit, not for the character's benefit, for our benefit, the kind of things he's doing. Because I know that's a studio note because they've gone, we're paying for Chevy Chase. We're paying for this film. We want to see Chevy Chase. I know that, and I kind of understand
him as well. To be fair,
yeah, true. But I kind of understand that in a way. I can kind of, and it's interesting. Again, it's something different you don't see in these Invisible Man movies because usually they're invisible and that's it until the end of the film. Usually, so there's elements there that I like, and at the beginning of the film, I didn't have too much of an issue. I think the chemistry between Chevy Chase and Daryl Hannah is dreadful. It's not good. It's not there. I don't know what's happening, but it's not working.
Yeah.
Even when they go from like knowing each other for 2 seconds and then they're just absolutely going to shag in the toilet.
No idea what that relationship was supposed to be.
Yeah, I don't.
Even towards the end of the film, I was like, this has had no point.
I don't think Daryl Hannah was the first choice either. I don't think she was the first.
I don't think the entire angle of the relationship was in the original script. To tell you the truth.
No.
Because that screams like, oh well, we have to have something like this in the film because that's what every film has, isn't it?
Yeah.
We have to have a relationship in there. Whereas there's no problem. The better relationship in the movie is the fucking antagonistic relationship he has with Sam Neill.
Yeah, true.
There's that great fucking scene. Probably the only great scene in the movie is when Chevy Chase has been hiding in Sam Neill's office the entire day and listens to their entire fucking plan. And it's only when sort of Chevy Chase sort of stretches out and his leg or his fucking hand clicks.
Yeah, it's his knee, I think. His knee clicks, I think.
His knee clicks and Sam Neill sort of like goes, fucking hell, there's somebody in here. But not like in a scared way. He kind of goes, you come. I know you're fucking here. And there's that playful nature with it. And then we have this confrontation, obviously, where they can't see each other, but they do play that where Chevy's in the room and Sam's in the room, and you can both see them actor to actor, if you like. But obviously, the way they play is Sam Neill plays it brilliantly because he's obviously figured out marks these to look at to make it look like he's not looking at Chevy. And that's a really good fucking scene. And that small bloody sequence is the best relationship in the entire fucking movie.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing with Daryl Hannah in this, you could take her out of the movie and it doesn't change anything. In fact, it alleviates the dreadful fucking middle section entirely, removes it.
And I think the thing, I was like, this is okay. I was like, when I was watching the first half, I was like, okay, it's a bit it's supposed to be a bit funny. It's not really funny. There's like a meet cute that's not really a meet cute at all. I don't know what she sees in him. I don't know what he sees in her.
No,
but that's a thing.
Not believable at all.
They don't really establish the character or what he does really because they don't really care to. They're just like,
her character.
Let's just get him to they're like literally rushing to get to the invisibility bit as quick as possible.
Yeah.
But there is a moment when he's out there, he's trying to Bishop Brennan as well is the scientist from Father Ted. Did you kick me up the ass? I was just like, oh my god, it's Bishop Brennan. So I loved seeing him there, and that moment where he's like jogging around and taking his clothes off and stuff, very very cheesy. So it gets to the point where he feels like he's got nowhere to go, nothing to do. There's no options for him, and Sam's like, you've got to come back to me. Eventually, you're gonna have to come back to me. Now, Sam Neill's character, Jenkins, I want to say his name was, he wants to use the Invisible Man as a spy. He wants to use him in his covert operative work, but he wants to keep it to himself and not to his greater, the FBI I think he's working for, which is, again, interesting. It's something you go, okay, yeah, that could, if nobody knew about this or the ability to do this, you could, change worlds overnight. You know, like he says, you could kill Hitler in 1939. You know, you can do this, you can do that. So that's an interesting premise. And like you said, I love that bit where he yawns, pretends to yawn, and causes Chevy to yawn. And yeah, like that's like when you were talking about it, I immediately yawned because I thought about that moment. That was like triggered me just thinking about it, not seeing it, but like recalling it. But yeah, we get to a point in the film where he decides to go to Michael McKean's character's his friend's summer house. And the film absolutely immediately fucking flatlines. Like before I thought it's okay, it's fine, it's not offensive to me, it's not bad per se, but when we get here he's just like, I'm going to order food, and then a guy comes in, and then he's like, and then all of a sudden he's running down the beach being invisible. And it's like, how do you have this kind of loneliness, this isolation, this depression about, you know, never restoring your life, but then be like, running down the beach.
5 minutes before, you were talking to the scientist, revealing that this fucking technique works, and they were like, well, he goes, we didn't even frigging plan for this to work. It's purely an accident. We've got no antidote for it. And then this quite, you know, intense moment, and then he has to run away, and the scientist gets captured, and then 5 minutes later, he's running down the beach past somebody fishing, and goes, "Good morning," and the guy doesn't look. So it's supposed to be a comedy moment. You go, "What the fuck?" Literally 5 minutes ago, you're in complete despair because there's no way out of this situation, and now you've embraced it. What?
Like,
what are you trying to say?
You're in bouts of depression, but now it's okay, and then. One of the weirdest things is where he goes to the working men's club that he was at, and he met Daryl Hannah at, and he's sleeping there because it's the only place he knows, and it's safe, and there's a lot of room for him to hide. And then he has that weird dream where like all of his dreams are coming true, kind of thing. Like, and again, I think that's for him to be like, oh, he's a narcissist. He loves himself, but. Surely if you were a narcissist, you wouldn't isolate yourself from everybody else. You wouldn't go, I'm so great, so I need to be on my own. I don't think that's how narcissists work. I don't think you have a narcissist who's also an isolationist. I don't think both of those things can be true at the same time. So, and he has this dream about winning tennis and having trophies and playing piano, and I was like, what is this fucking shit? I was like that was even before we got to the fucking summer house. I was like, what is this bollocks? And it goes on for far too long, and he's like, oh, this is what my life could have been. It was never that. Your life, even if you wanted your life to be like that, you would never have gotten that. You would never have made that happen. But then he could have, because we learn later in the film that he can manipulate the markets and make a shit ton of money and then just live on his own and go off scot-free and live his life. Why the fuck didn't he do that before? Why the fuck if he knew he could do that, and he hates his job and he doesn't want to be there, and he's not looking at the reports or the accounts or bothering answering dickheads' phone calls, then why wouldn't he just fucking do that normally if he could just like Deus Ex Machina his life?
Why wasn't that the fucking plot of the movie rather than the after credits fucking bit? Like, because we get to that stage at the end of the movie, don't we? Where he's living happily, snowboarding,
so
and fucking
goofy,
whatever.
such
the
goofy shit.
Credits, and it's like, all right, well, why didn't you make that the fucking plot of the film? What was all this unnecessary bollocks? What was it? What was it for?
And like you said, this whole section where he's like,
I hated it.
Yeah, it's dreadful. It's like a third of the film. It's only like what is it, an hour and 40 minutes, I think?
Yeah, exactly. And considering the film is only an hour and at most an hour and 40, it fucking sags.
Yeah,
it sags.
Awful.
It drags. It feels like you've just been told that you're gonna have to sit through a 3-hour epic where somebody's gonna read it to you. It's literally you just sat there, and I was just sat there going, "Oh God, I hope the rest of the film's not like this," because. It almost feels like they were mandated to do it because of the relationship they were trying to force in with Daryl Hannah's character. Because they go through this whole rigmarole of him revealing himself to her, and then she helps him with makeup, which again is clever in the way they do it in terms of the effects. But there were other ways to achieve that. We've seen those other ways before. I mean, they even do it they even do it when he reveals himself to Daryl Hannah with the bandages and everything, which is classic Invisible Man. Saw it in the old movie. We read it in the book. You know, it's those tropes we were going to get anyway. But it just feels so pointless and weightless and completely fucking reductive. Completely reductive. There are other ways and means to do and achieve the same things without having to have this entire long-winded sequence. It's just, I don't know, and I don't even know what ultimately. I don't know whether I zoned out too much or what. But I don't really know.
So we have
ultimately what point Daryl Hannah's character served come the end of it.
Yeah, but the thing
except for to get in the way.
Yeah, the thing is, like, there's they kind of just she faint like. So all the friends come to the summer house. He doesn't expect them to come, but they come, and they bring this fucking absolutely cartoon English guy,
Gaston.
Yeah, it's just a cartoony English guy who later turns out to be a rapist. Full of comedy. This film, full of comedy. And he has to hide within the house, and he's listening, and they're talking about him in like a derogatory way. They say he's a narcissist. He's flipping their drinks and spilling them on them, and messing about, turning the TV on and joke. Well, no, that's the other guy, isn't it? But
they even posit the fact that he might be dead. I mean, where did that come from?
They're just like, oh, he's probably dead. He's probably killed himself.
There's no we get like a handful of news reports, but nothing sort of tells us anything. But how does it inform those characters about what's really happened?
Yeah. But we also get the thing is, this is the thing. The characters surrounding Chevy Chase are telling us more about Chevy Chase than Chevy Chase is telling us. So Sam Neill has a profile on him. The friends are telling us about him. But I still don't know who the fuck he is. And that's probably why those lines are there, because people are going, I don't know am I rooting for him? Is he a prick? Is he going to make a change? What is he? What is his journey? And am I with it? Am I not with it? Inherently, like, invisibility can be a bit of a creepy power as well. Like, there's something to be said in that. Like, is he the hero? Is he the villain? What is he? And like you said, we don't know. The cast don't know. The scriptwriter doesn't know. The director doesn't know. Nobody knows. and we just have this muddled. We got Ray's wife's in there. Was it Deborah? Is in there from Everybody Loves Raymond. She's there.
Right.
That's it. I'm just trying to think of things to say about it, but yeah, he's just there, and he stops the because the British guy is cracking on to Daryl Hannah. She's not really interested. He's not taking the hint, and then he keeps pushing it. Kind of pushes himself into a bedroom, tries it on, and she says no, and then he pulls, because he's invisible and he's in the room. He pulls him off her. But again, he's supposed to be like a cartoony gag, and I was like, no, he's a rapist. He is an actual rapist. He was trying to rape her. And then Daryl's like, don't worry about it, it's fine, because they make out that it's Daryl's strength as opposed to like the Invisible Man being there. And then he's walking around being melancholy, and then Michael McKean and Deborah come out and they start shagging, and he has premature ejaculation. I was like, what are we watching?
Again, it's one of those, it's supposed to be a comedy moment that completely falls utterly flat.
Yeah, and this is him being depressed again. Him being depressed.
Where is this coming from?
Yeah, him walking around going, I can't live my life. I love her now. Like, he just decides he's falling in love with her as well while he's saving her from being raped. He's like, oh, I'm in love with you now. I'm definitely in love with you. It's like tonal whiplash every 2 seconds in this film. Like, there's never a moment where you think this is it, or I understand where this is going. And later on, he decides just to move down the road to another empty house, very conveniently. And he invites Daryl Hannah, and he reveals he's invisible. She faints, and that's it. Like, there's no like, what about this? Basically, they start working out the mechanics of him trying to live a normal life, like you said, with the makeup and giving him wigs and polishing his teeth and all this other stuff, and giving the big goggles. They try and go out for a meal, it doesn't quite work. All the friends think she's a bit loopy because she's going on these long walks, which again is supposed to be funny. And they're like, and they think do they think she's mentally ill? And I was like, right, sure. They leave, Daryl Hannah stays. And then that's when he talks about manipulating the stock market and finding a way around it. And the FBI track her down and they find her and kidnap her. And that's basically that's right at the tail end of the film. And we have that moment, which again is a great effect at the start where he's blowing the bubble gum, he's in the chair, he's being recorded, he's doing all the ILM doing the absolutely doing God's work in this film. And he's recorded that video, but he sent it elsewhere as a kind of an idea to kind of ransom and reveal what the FBI are doing, what Jenkins is doing. And he also sent it to Jenkins. And they work out an exchange. He'll give himself up as long as Daryl Hannah's gone. And then we have the kind of the chase at the end. But I think I think that first chase sequence when he's in his apartment and he's trying to escape, when they're trying to spray paint on him, is actually pretty good. Again, that's when the film is actually working. And he breaks into the old deer's house. He absolutely knocks a fly.
He destroys an old lady.
That made me laugh because he absolutely he's like, just let me in. The man isn't here anymore. She was like, I never really liked him. Blah blah blah. And they're noticing something going on with the door, and they heard the doorbell ring, and then he absolutely kicks the door in, knocks it flying, and then off screen, this 80-yard line, which is like, oh, I must have slipped. Which absolutely made me piss because she went fucking flying.
Didn't need to even add it. I think
that's probably the only bit that I actually laughed at the whole film. The rest of it, I thought, no, these gags are not really working for me. But that chase scene I think worked, and again the Sam Neill role, Jenkins, his threat and menace is really there. But I think even he gets a bit campy towards the end. I think those final moments, it gets a bit campy for me.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I really did not like the fucking ending. Really did not like the ending.
Yeah,
so it's just a wet fart ending.
Yeah, because they're trying to find ways of
building to.
Yeah,
that's the problem. I didn't know what they were building to. I didn't know how they were going to resolve any of it because they don't even posit anywhere in the film where there could be any resolution because they've already told us there's no cure.
Yeah.
Right, so what is he going to do? Is he going to embrace it? Is he going to do this? Is he going to turn against it? Is he going to hand himself in? Even he doesn't know at the end of the film. He doesn't know what he's going to do.
No.
So we're just kind of sat there going, oh, I don't fucking know. What do you want from me?
Apparently the original ending was going to be Daryl Hannah giving birth to an invisible child, which is the one Carpenter really argued for and thought it was interesting. Okay. But the studio were like, no, we don't want people seeing a freak baby, like a mutant baby, being born.
Okay.
And so that's when they ended up with the ski ending, or the post-credits, or within the end of the credits, kind of ski lodge ending with her being pregnant, which is bizarre. But like you said, I do like the kind of ingenious ways they're trying to catch him, like with the spray painting and the infrared goggles, and him trying to outsmart it is kind of cool, and in a better movie would work more interestingly.
Yeah, but I think even those infrared goggles at one point, they're just I think it's the bit where they're chasing after the scientist gets shot.
Yeah.
The chasing when he's taking all his clothes off. Great effect. But then somebody's wearing those goggles, and immediately as soon as he loses him, like the pants come off, he sort of looks up and goes,
yeah,
the goggles are completely ineffective.
Yeah.
So there's no consistency in the goggles either.
No.
It's almost like we're just wearing the Ghostbusters goggles. Just because
they needed to do the Predator thing, like he falls in mud or in like water or goes in a freezer or something like that, like because
it's just it completely. There's a lot of things that they're trying to show and do in this film, but all of it amounts to nothing. Like you said, the spray painting, they do that. They do the one scene in the house of it, but then they never use it again. They do the fucking goggles that are completely pointless and offer nothing in terms of catching him, because when they fucking corner him in that big building at the end, nobody uses them.
No.
So why? What are we doing? It's just, like I said, for me, this is as misguided as you get, because clearly there are so many different plans, ideas, and wants and needs from everybody in this film.
Hmm.
I think Sam Neill just wants to have a good time.
Yeah.
Fair enough. He has it, I think. I think Chevy Chase obviously wants to create something that's unique and
Well, it's a vanity project, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
showcases range.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like what exactly like what Jim Carrey did with
Yeah.
Eternal Sunshine and even fucking the Andy Kaufman film. It's literally is a vanity project film that completely rings hollow. Haha, lol.
Yeah. Totally transparent.
Yeah, exactly, because even he doesn't have a clear idea of what he's trying to say, what he's trying to do in the film. At one moment there is the comedy, at one moment he's trying to be deadly serious, at one moment he's trying to be poetic, at one moment he's trying to be poignant. None of it fucking lands, none of it sticks. They bring John Carpenter in, they create all these magical effects with ILM, and you can see the works, but you can't feel any of his fundamental craft in the film at all, because there is no fucking tension. There's absolutely no tension apart from that one scene with Sam Neill. There is nothing else. There's no depth. There's no weight.
We've talked about it. It's something he does best,
yeah.
and he's not doing it here.
Yeah, I don't need it to be a horror movie. It doesn't need to be a horror movie, but you've got to have some horrifying elements in there. The guy's fucking been made permanently invisible. Where is the tension? Where is the horror in that? The existential horror of never being seen again. They play with it, but they never really go into any fucking great detail with it. Instead, they flitter around with the guy coming in his pants on the fucking beach. Fuck off. Why? What is this? And again, that's conflicting ideas, because you get in John Carpenter, who literally, before this fucking film, let's see what the film was before this.
I think it was They Live, I think.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Before this film is They Live.
Yeah.
You bring him in.
And that's not really a horror film, really.
No, but it's
But it works.
The ideas are front and center.
Yeah.
They underpin everything.
Horrifying ideas. I wouldn't say it was a horror film out and out, but it's a horrifying idea.
This Memoirs of Invisible Man doesn't need to be a horror film, but it's the ideas that underpin it that are horrifying.
Exactly.
Like the idea of aliens taking over and making the world a consumerist place for their own benefit. It's fucking horrifying, because we fall into the pitfalls we still are now with fucking mobile phones and fucking streaming and this bollocks that we're doing here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's still the same. It's just evolved.
Yeah,
And
right.
the whole point with this film is the existential horror of being invisible. That's the whole fucking point of The Invisible Man. Not necessarily him doing terrible things to people, but just that knowledge that there is somebody in the corner of your room, or there is somebody stood here who can't be seen by somebody, and if they reveal themselves, they'll send whoever's heard that into fucking panic. It's playing with that, but they don't do any of that. They barely play with it, in terms of pranks in this movie. It's such a wet fart and a waste of potential. Really is.
Like you said, it doesn't know what it wants to be. Sometimes it's a Hitchcockian thriller on a train.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's got a noir voiceover, which doesn't work. Sometimes, like you said, it's this existential depression and dread and what am I going to do with my life? How do I live a normal life anymore? There's stuff, again, they could mine, like, oh no, even the life I was living, I was not living to my fullest, and now I'm invisible. I can't live a normal life. I'm going to have to figure out. There's elements you can play with, but again, it's so shallow. The depth of the film is so shallow. It's too busy trying to have the adventure, trying to have the espionage, trying to have the romance, trying to have it all. Eat the cake, have the cake and eat it too. And none of it works. Daryl Hannah's character is basically vacuum of it's nothing there. It's just that she's pretty.
You may as well be fucking invisible.
She doesn't even have a job. She was filming in the Amazon. it's very rom-commy that like, oh, I've got a lot of money, but I don't actually really have a proper job. It's like Hugh Grant in any fucking Richard Curtis film. He goes, oh, I wrote a jingle that was the most famous jingle ever. So now I've got time to fucking have loads of dalliances.
What? We're supposed to empathise with that?
That's why I can go off and shag all these beautiful women and date Julia Roberts and all this bollocks. Again, it's an absolute plot contrivance. And like I said, that contrivance of him just going, oh, I could just manipulate the markets through you and you can do this. But the idea of him being isolated and being lonely and being, frustrated and having this existential dread, Daryl Hannah should come in and save him. And the fact that she gives him kind of practical tips on how to do this and how to do that, there's maybe something there that he starts as a narcissist, but then becomes isolated, learns not to be narcissistic or isolationist because of Daryl Hannah's love and affection, and he can change, and he finally feels seen. There's something there, but again, being a narcissist, he's a narcissist, he's setting fire to shit as well. He's truly dangerous, Andy. He's truly dangerous. The Invisible Man burning down your home. He should have burned down that summer home and that entire section of the film.
Yeah, God.
Fuck me, get out of my life. I don't think I've seen a film recently where I've gone, fuck this entire portion of this film. Just this portion. Like, I mean, the rest of it isn't great, but this portion in particular is fucking dire. But yeah,
I like how the FBI or whatever they are put a giant net over the house as well, and he's not even fucking there. Like when they look through the thingy, it's like, oh, they're here. There's like a big, massive net over the house. It's like, oh well, cool.
Also, they because the building explodes, doesn't it? They say there's some like molecular instability with the process, and the building like dematerializes or vanishes, whatever. But they never say why he won't. They just go, I'm just don't seem to be doing that. And they kill the scientist character off because they think he knows too much.
Off screen as well.
Off screen, and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you killed a guy. And he's like, I'm the man who... I do like that line where he's like, I'm the guy who kills people, not you. I'm the guy who does this. And he's like, oh, But like that could have been interesting. Like maybe that's how it ends. He saves Daryl Hannah, by grabbing Sam Neill and exploding in a big, molecular bomb or whatever you want to call it. Maybe that would be more interesting than him.
Anything that him walking the fucking plank. He quite literally walks the plank off the fucking building.
Yeah. Well, before that, let's talk about this. There's the big switch. There's the big switch that they organise, which I talked about earlier, where he's outside. They can see him. He's at the phone booth. He's like, let her go and I'll come to you. Put her in a cab and we'll go. Cab comes along. They put Daryl Hannah in, drives off. They go over to the Invisible Man, Chevy Chase's character. They unwrap his bandages. It's Michael McKean saying, where's my friend? So not only... Even though he thinks he's dead and he's not his friend and he thinks he's a narcissist and he doesn't like him, he will turn up to a random location, dress like an invisible man, expertly, covering every part of his anatomy to make sure he's convincing his Chevy Chase, and then go, oh, why are you punching me? Oh. And then he's like, oh yeah, where's my mate Chevy? What's going on? And again, something that has not aged at all well. I'm guessing this is a Chevy Chase. Knowing Chevy Chase's history with racism, I imagine it's something he suggested. But he is in brown face and a turban, and he has the white teeth again, and he has sunglasses on, and he's the cab driver, and they're driving away. And then later on, we see him jump in front of this kind of water truck that's spraying the street to wash away all, because he's running headless or bodiless, just his head is shown running, and it's I was just like, that's like the insult to injury. Already this film is not good, but I was just like, fucking hell, I thought we could get away without one thing that really dates the film, and fucking hell, awful, just and this is 91 as well. It's not even like, mid-80s or early 80s or late 70s. This is 1991, which I'm like, fuck me, come on. Isn't that that's the same year as like Rodney King, I think, or the year after. I'm like,
yeah,
I think it's around this time. So I'm just thinking, stuff like this
What
is
are you
really,
doing?
really in poor taste. So yeah, we have that. And there is that earlier scene which kind of reminded me of Daredevil. The bit where they're in the rain and she can see him because all the water's kind of. And again,
Yeah.
amazing effect, absolutely amazing effect. But yeah, we have that. He goes to this construction site, but it gets covered in like soot or dust or cement, like dry cement. So he can be seen by Sam Neill, who's chasing him. And Sam Neill still wants to use him. He's still trying to. He does a really good job, I think, Sam Neill, of convincing him to, like come on board, like join me. We can do this. Like every one of his speeches is slightly different or tries it. And then he kind of plays around. Like Chevy's like he decides to take his jacket off and kind of dangle it, which is when you get to the walking plank element. And at this point, it's just like he's not even pretending to like act like like genuine. He's like, I'm crying, I'm sad because I'm invisible.
Don't come any closer.
Don't. And he's like, no. And then he keeps flipping it on him, and Sam goes to like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And he's like, oh no, maybe I should come with you. And he's like, yes, come with me. And yeah, it is very campy. It gets to this point, but the film has become very campy at this point anyway. Really at this point. So I'm like, whatever, just get to the end already. I don't care. But I agree. Sam Neill's very intelligent character. Like the things he noticed in that scene that you mentioned, like the breathing, the clicking. Surely he would notice him waggling a jacket about in the wind, knowing that that's definitely not him. Like he would know that. He's intelligent enough to know that. And then it becomes Looney Tunes, cartoon, and you don't see him hit the ground because they can't show that in this film. It's all off screen. It's all like, oh, he exploded. Oh, he hit the ground. It's awful. And then the guy from the FBI's boss just kind of spins it. He's just like, he was very depressed. Don't worry about it. But
we didn't know he was going to commit suicide. No.
The thing is, I think that would have worked better if we thought that Chevy Chase had gone over as well.
Yeah.
And then he reveals, oh no, it's just my jacket I hung up.
Yeah, they did it back to front, didn't they?
Yeah, they did it the wrong way around.
There's nothing clever about it. It's just, like you said, it becomes very fucking just dreadful.
Awful.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about how it was received, Andy. So.
Yeah.
So, how well do you think this did box office wise?
Poorly.
So, on a $30 to $40 million budget, it made $14.4 million.
Whoa. That's a big old flop, boys and girls.
Yep.
It's a big old flop.
Yep. And basically killed Chevy Chase's career. I think he got $6 million for that film, and that was the last film he would ever make that much money for again. Absolutely destroyed his career. Carpenter
from the studio.
Yeah, Carpenter. Well, Warner Bros. Is still going, making interesting choices as they continue to do. But I will say, I fucking love Sinners. Sinners was a banger. Do more of that. Do more stuff like that, Warner Bros. And I am looking forward to Superman. Maybe against my better judgment, I'm looking forward to it. Rotten Tomatoes has it at a 28% rotten film.
Ooh.
And the audience score is a little kinder. It's 33%. Metacritic has it at an average of 48. And then the user score is 5.9, so a little bit kinder. Letterboxd has it at a 2.9, which I think is probably more accurate, I think. I'd say that's kind of fair. And then Roger Ebert said the plot is lazy and conventional. What is good about the movie involves Chase and Hannah. Disagree. Massively disagree, Roger.
I completely disagree there as well.
I tend not to agree with most of Roger's reviews, but there you go. You have to work out the logistical problems of their strange relationship. Yeah, that is interesting. That part is interesting. Chevy and Daryl Hannah together absolutely does nothing for me.
Yeah.
And then the Washington Post, Dessen Howe, his name is, said, Memoirs of an Invisible Man isn't a movie. It's an identity crisis. The previews would have you believe it's a zany comedy, but the jokes are far too few and far in between. It's a comedy. If it's a comedy, why is John Carpenter directing it, the man who did Halloween? If Memoirs wants to get serious, why is Chevy Chase in the lead? This is the man who starred in National Lampoon's European Vacation. Which I think is kind of what we've said. It's a kind of clashing of cultures and ideologies and
None of it's good.
techniques. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I read that quote out to you earlier. Now, before we decide whether John Carpenter went in the wrong direction, would you like to hear some listener comments?
Oh, go on.
Yes.
Why not?
Okay.
Let's have it.
So this is from our friend Derek. This is from last year, because we did change our plans quite last minute. So he'd already watched the film and reviewed it and sent me his comments. So this is from...
Sorry, Derek.
Sorry, Derek. I don't have a date for when you sent this, but I'm going to read it out. So Derek Esoteric says, "Hi Dan, I really hope this isn't one of your all-time favourites. I'm banking on it being featured on a misdirection episode." Wrong direction, but you're not far off, Derek. Here's what I think. Chevy Chase makes me feel a bit queasy. To paraphrase Angry Andy, he grates my cheddar. Daryl Hannah's character must have some real self-esteem issues to be into him. Surely he's massively punching in this movie. Absolutely. As an old git, my recollection is that by the 90s we'd become a little more enlightened. Clearly I'm deluded. See the scene where the CIA agent openly pervs on a young lady doing a pre-exercise stretches on the sidewalk.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yep, I remember that. Like, she's 2 feet away from him as well.
Oh, yeah.
It's not even, like, subtle at all. Why does Daryl Hannah's potential alternative love interest and total knobhead at the beach house have to be British? I don't know. I don't think he's in real life, or if he is, he's absolutely laying his accent on thick. Awful character.
Yeah.
You could exercise if you can exercise anything from the movie, the brown face and that character immediately.
Yeah.
And then Daryl Hannah as well.
He's literally just fucking Gaston from Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, pretty much.
Except not as fun.
Pretty much. Apparently the special effects were groundbreaking, but some of them remind me of Bedknobs and Broomsticks, which actually, Derek, was an influence on ILM. They watched kind of a few films to kind of find out how to depict an Invisible Man. They watched Invisible Man Returns, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, and something else, which I'm failing to remember, but it was an influence, so you might see that in there. When the gun is being held to Sam Neill's head, which I did enjoy that. But I think that's Sam Neill's acting and nothing else, I think.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Absolutely.
This is quite literally a plastic gun glued to his head as you're facing him left temple. It wobbles about in sync with his every move. I'll let that one slide. I don't mind that one so much. All the other shit we mentioned, absolutely. The CIA are shit. They arrive at the beach house from the beach. Chevy and Daryl simply leave from the inland-facing side of the house. Schoolboy level espionage. And there's a scene where the Invisible Man is naked. He covers his frontal nether regions with his hands, despite the fact that no one can see him. Why? Because we, the audience, Derek, can see him, and nobody wants to see Chevy Chase's fucking dick.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. And Derek says, that's all I've got. So, yes, that is... I think you feel the same way we do about it. I'm sorry it took so long for us to read your comment, Derek, but we got here eventually. We did get here eventually. And you now get to...
strife.
So I put on the Discord, asked a few of our fellow podcasters and YouTubers, what did they feel about John Carpenter or this film? So Math says, Carpenter was one of the guys who scared the crap out of me growing up. I've never seen Memoirs of an Invisible Man. Yeah, I'd agree. I concur. As I wasn't really a huge fan of Chevy Chase, but give me John Carpenter and Kurt Russell, and I would be watching. Big Trouble in Little China is still a classic. Also, I didn't realize how much he had composed as much as he did. Maybe your pod will make me go back and watch Memoirs of an Invisible Man. I don't think it will, Matt. I don't think it will.
Just listen to this.
Listen to this, and
that's it.
That's all you need. That's all you need. 20th Century Geek, Scott Weatherly, he said, "It's an oddity. There are moments when a darker Carpenter movie is glimpsed. Overall, it's a mess, but it's now awful." Carpenter is a great director. Halloween is in my top 3 movies. I love his Apocalypse trilogy. Prince of Darkness is so underrated. And I think Vampires could have been a masterpiece. There we go. Scott's on board. Mike Burton hasn't seen Memoirs of an Invisible Man. That's his catchphrase. He says, though, that The Thing is an absolute masterpiece, arguably the best body horror I've ever seen, aside from maybe Cronenberg's The Fly. Obviously, Halloween is iconic and is perhaps my favourite classic franchise horror movie. I think that's all I've seen, ashamedly, of John Carpenter's work. Dave Horrocks says, "Blimey, small subject with John Carpenter. What I admire most about him is how he's able to hit such high levels in directing, writing, and also composing. There are very few creators that have had such a singular vision and influence over the final product. Very different genre, but Trey Parker is also the only other similar figure I can think of off the top of my head." So yeah, so Andy, anything you want to say about those comments that you heard?
No, pretty much spot on, really, aren't they? Like we said, if you haven't seen it, don't. I really couldn't recommend it, even out of morbid curiosity, unless you're an absolute completionist. Then I really wouldn't bother. Really wouldn't bother, because it's not worth the time. It's not worth the energy. It's not worth the dissatisfaction at all. It really isn't. It really isn't, because there's nothing to gain from seeing this film. There really is nothing to gain, because John Carpenter doesn't fucking like it. So why would you even go back and watch it? Because he's a completionist of his own work, isn't he? He's everything he's compiling together is his composites, his music, his classic movies. If he's been this one off himself, he's not even owning it, then don't fucking bother. Really don't bother. It reminds me of that Steven Spielberg one, the one that you did.
Oh, God, 1941. Fuck me.
Yeah, exactly. That one.
The very first Wrong Direction.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Binned off entirely. You will never find that being released on 4K at all. There will never be a fucking re-release of that in any way, shape, or form. Again, it's one of those films. And this is exactly
the outlier.
It was a mistake, fundamentally misguided at every single level. So put it in the bin. Don't even waste the bandwidth.
But the question is, Andy, did John Carpenter go in the wrong direction, or was it outside forces that caused him to make this film in the form that we see it now?
Considering everything that we've talked about and everything that we've discussed on this, it isn't the singular focus. It's not like Spielberg, where he went the wrong direction. This is a combination of fuck-ups of several different angles. Chevy Chase, Warner Brothers, the writers, previous directors, even, as wonderful as it is that the musical score came from that
Shirley
lady
Walker,
who said,
yeah,
as wonderful it is, even that, the ineptitude of the earlier preconceived ideas of who's scoring the film, they couldn't make a fucking decision. Something good came out of it, of course it did. But even so, it still harkens to the absolute mess that this fucking film is, from top to bottom, from pre-production through to release and box office return. There's nothing good to be gleaned from this movie, apart from those small, tiny moments and those small, tiny butterfly effect moments with the lady who did the score.
Yeah,
I
wouldn't say watch the whole film. Absolutely not the middle section. I would turn it off. I would say maybe check out some clips, just some of the special effects, I think, some of the score, but other than that.
But even then, the special effects don't get picked up in those great discussions of the greatest special effects. They don't get picked up because
But that's why I think they should be looked at, because I think they are genuine. I think if you're looking at them in isolation, if this film is about isolation, let's talk about these effects in isolation. I think they are excellent effects, and I think they do stand up even to today. I watched it for the first time the other day on the Blu-ray, and I've watched a lot of films and a lot of John Carpenter films where we've mentioned the effects do not age well. This one did not. I will give it that. That. There are some positives. There are some takeaways. It's not 1941 where I couldn't find a single fucking thing I liked about that, other than the cast list was pretty good. This does have some moments. Maybe just listen to the score again in isolation, but it does get very Batman-y towards the end. You can kind of hear the Batman kind of, she worked with Danny Elfman on the original Batman film, so there's definitely, you can hear that in there with it. But yeah, I think you're right. I don't think it's a John Carpenter. It's not a John Carpenter joint, let's say. I think the big thing for me is he doesn't put his name on it. And I don't know if that's Warner Brothers' decision or if that's he's like, I don't want to put my fucking name on this.
Disowning it, isn't it?
Yeah. And again, I do title these podcasts as John Carpenter's Memoirs of an Invisible Man, but usually he would, if he was proud of it or if he wanted his name to be on it, it would be. Even like John Carpenter, I'm pretty sure Starman had his name on it, Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
Those lower budget ones. But I think maybe either he didn't want it or they were like, he's a horror guy, we don't want him on this comedy film. We don't want it throwing people off, they might think it's a horror film.
Yeah, even looking at the posters, like there's a big poster here, and his name is right down in the bottom right of the picture, next to the Warner Brothers fucking sign.
There you go.
You can't even really read it. Again, his name is not front and center on any of the posters. However, if you bring up vampires, his name's right on the fucking top.
Yeah.
You can tell what he's proud of and what he's not proud of.
Yeah.
Fair play to him. Fair play to him completely.
And, I don't think any lesser of him for making this film or for seeing it and not being all that great. I've not seen still a lot of his filmography. I've seen most of it. I'd say 90% I've seen. There's some films he wrote as well and didn't necessarily direct, and I've seen some of those as well. But yeah, I think he was screwed from the get-go. The whole thing, like you said, fundamentally on every level from the get-go was flawed. Like the whole idea, the premise, what anybody wanted, it was all flawed. And that is why we have such a flawed film with a lack of identity. Yeah, and it will be forgotten again. Apart from us bringing it to the light again, it will be forgotten. It will be left to be like when he dies. They're not going to go, John Carpenter, the director of Memoirs of an Invisible Man, has died. No. They're not going to mention that. They're going to say
it's not like David Lynch, where they'll literally refer to everything that David Lynch created.
Yeah. But they don't mention June. They don't mention David Lynch's June. That's not the one they go for. That's that you could argue that's his wrong direction or what have you. But yeah. Whatever. Well, I'm sure we'll get to David Lynch at some point, Andy. I'm sure we will.
Indeed.
We will. But is there anything else you'd like to say about John Carpenter or the film before we finish?
No, I don't think so. I think it speaks for itself, doesn't it?
It does.
We've talked for as long as the film
lasted,
plays.
Yeah, true.
And I think we've said everything and more than the film actually says itself.
Or it deserves to be said, yeah. So yeah, I thought this was going to be a short one, but we managed to fill the length of the film. So you don't have to watch it. Don't worry about it, guys. Just listen to us talk about it. Andy,
forget about it.
Andy, I'm not up on your reviews recently. So what have you got coming out, or what has just come out?
I have no idea.
This will come out fairly soon, maybe in a week's time.
What did I do recently?
I know you've done Sinners. I know you did.
Oh yeah, Sinners again. Sinners speak to yourself. You said it, didn't you?
Yeah, incredible.
Obviously, watched the Thunderbolts.
Yes, you did.
It was all right.
Yeah,
it was okay. Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
I'm with you. I'm with you. I expected it to be a lot worse than it was, and I was like, it's good. It was good.
I didn't have any. I wasn't really hyped.
I almost didn't go and see it. Like Scott said, "Oh, are you going to go see Thunderbolts?" I was like, and I was like, "If you want to go, I'll see it." And then he said, "Yeah, I want to see it." And I was like, "Right, we'll go." And we did. And we've like that weekend. I think it was the anniversary of Iron Man, when I kind of convinced a lot of you guys at uni to come see Iron Man because I thought it was going to be good or like a big deal, and it was, of course. It changed cinema entirely forever. So it was strange that even 17 plus years years later, we're still going to bloody Marvel movies. Weird. MCU movies, no doubt.
That I put that review out. I think I upset a few people because I actually liked it, which is weird.
Oh.
It's a weird one for me. Like, it just
Some
like, I
down.
don't
You
know.
get some downvotes, did you?
No, to be fair, no. I just noted that there was quite a few people just jumped off. Like, I don't really. I'm not. I celebrate the subscriber count because I think
Yeah.
it's personal validation, but
Sure.
it's not something that I'm actively like, I must have 1,000. I must reach this number. It is my life goal. Because this is literally just a bit of enjoyment.
Yeah, of course.
That's all it is. It's just a bit of a hobby, but people jumped off directly as a result of
Right.
that video, like completely just
Wow.
unsubscribed. And I think it is purely because obviously the name of the channel being
Angry Andy,
Angry
yeah.
Andy Reviews.
Mhm.
So I had to put a little thing out there saying like, if that's the way you're viewing the channel, then you're viewing it in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Because this is literally the anger for me has always stemmed from the colourful language
Yeah.
and the ineptitude of filmmaking. Like with this, the middle portion of this video got very animated with some of the language.
Sure.
And that's where it comes from. And obviously it came from you as well, didn't it? The name.
Yeah. Well, I'm not
because of that reason.
Yeah.
Because of that reason. So
I think
that's where it was.
there are channels out there on YouTube where it is just vitriol, isn't it? There's no reasoning behind it. It's just
that's
just
not
like
what I'm about.
there's a fucking woman in a film. I don't like it. You know, there's people out there. You're not that. You are never going to be that. The title.
I don't strive to do.
Yeah, exactly. And you would never be. I know you well enough to know you would never be anything like that. And those kind of people out there, and they are purely being vitriolic to get those likes or to get that. And negative content does sometimes lead to more attention and this and that. But you always back up your points. You don't just go, this is shit because I don't like it. There's always some reasoning behind it, and you've taken effort to construct that argument.
That's what I said with the review for Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
Like I went in with no expectations because I've kind of got off the boil with
me too,
with Marvel, with superhero movies, with Star Wars, with Star Trek. I've gone off the boil with them, so I don't go in anymore with any preconceived ideas or hopes or wants. So we sat down, it played, and I went, you know what, that was actually all right. It's not perfect, not in any way, shape, or form is it perfect. It doesn't reach the hearty highs of like Iron Man, but it does a job. It does a job, and the way that it does it is quite tight and compact. So I appreciated that, and I put it out there, and I'll say that. And I'm honest enough and grown up enough to say that when something does intrigue me or makes me go, oh, that was okay, I will say that. Like I said, it's not perfect. I don't do scores anymore, but if I was to score it, I probably would give it a 7. 6.5 or 7.
Yeah, that's fine. I do the same. I do the same. Like there's reviewers out there that don't critique films at all and talk about them, and then there's people that purely critique them just for likes and views, and you're nowhere near any of those ends of the spectrum. You're slap dab right in the middle. You're critical. You bring a critical eye. You go open-minded, and then you see what it is. What does it give you? Does it give you joy? Does it piss you off? You'll know about it, and you'll tell it in an interesting and informative and entertaining way. And if those people aren't there for that, then they're better off gone, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, pretty much, yeah. Because like I said, it's only a hobby.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not making any money from it, so
No, it's fine.
I'm not going to lose sleep over it.
No.
I'll lose sleep over different things. The fucking real world career that I've got, the real world,
all the existential
being
dread.
woken up by the child in the middle of the night, that's the stuff that's making me lose sleep. Like a flying fuck, about other bits and pieces. It's a passion project in itself. I love editing the videos. I love doing all that. So that's where it is for me. There's nothing planned at the minute. I think Lilo and Stitch is out.
Yes.
I believe later this week.
Yeah.
21st maybe. I can't remember when it is.
Natalie's a big fan. We just did our Disney discussion on it.
And I think the little one likes Stitch, so she's been watching the cartoon film. So I think we'll take her and see what it does. Yeah. But again, I'm not a fan of the live action movies, but it's one of those that it doesn't look too bad, to be fair. It doesn't look too bad at all. It looks like they've stuck to the original formula. So we'll see what happens with that, and that'll probably be the next review. To be fair, before the Fantastic Four, we'll see where that takes us.
Very interesting.
Again, with that, I don't have any cares. Really,
I really like the
I've embraced
characters.
some of the memes about the female Silver Surfer, some of the fun memes, not the negative
not
ones.
the derogatory ones. No,
the fun ones. Because again, I know the history of the Silver Surfer, but yeah, so I'm not going to get into any of that.
Nah,
we'll see.
not worth it.
It's about how good the film is.
Yes, exactly.
And how good the writing is, and
if it's a good,
stuff that
if it's a good,
people,
if it's a good film, it's a good film.
Channel.
Yeah,
because I'm always talking about writing, aren't I?
Yes. Well,
writing's not everything. It fucking is.
I mean, that's where it starts from. That's how you get a film made. You don't, very rarely do they start a film process without a script, do they? Almost never. Yeah. Almost never will that happen. But yes, thank you, Andy. I really appreciate this. I've had a great time. I know I forced you to watch this film, but I think the discussion has been well worth it, and renewing my love for John Carpenter and reminding me why he is so good and why this film does not showcase him in the best light, I think is great. So I would just like to tell you to subscribe to Andy and his channel. I'll leave all the links in the show notes. You know where he is by now. You should do, and if you don't, get on there, get liking, subscribing, and watching.
Please do.
And if you've unsubscribed, fuck you, get lost. But yeah, you can find me on.
I've won them back.
I mean, they could come back.
Come
back if you like. Just don't unsubscribe if you hear one opinion you don't like. How about that?
Weird,
How about that? Just one opinion on one thing, one time. Unsubscribed. Imagine how it must take.
I even made a joke about the fact that I liked it within the first 30 seconds. I actually like this movie, and I put a clip in of Andy going bullshit.
But yes, you can find me at spiderdown.thesecretballs.com. I'd like to thank my patrons on Patreon: Tony Farina, I Am Jack's Musing, Simon Cotton, Paul Meller, Mike Burton, Angry Andy, Tonya Todd, Math, Scott Hodgson, Ria Carrigan, and Sarah Coyne. Thank you for your continuing donations. It is very much appreciated and helps Prattle World keep on turning. And if you ever find yourself in a position to help the podcast, please consider it. If not, consider leaving a review, a comment, or sharing on social media. This will be coming out as a video this month, as we've not done our Page of Apocalypse. I'm going to do a video and a podcast as well. So if you want to watch our lovely faces, and if you've listened to the podcast already, watch it again. But yes, thank you guys. Love doing this. I know it's been a little bit of a while since we did one of these, so go back and listen to the previous ones, like 1941. Start at the beginning. There's a playlist on YouTube. You can find them all on there, and they're mostly shit, most of the ones. But that's kind of the point of the show. The kind of the point of this format. So yeah, I don't know who we're going to do next, or who we're going to do that with. Maybe Paul Verhoeven. I think maybe Paul Verhoeven. Maybe. I think I might have somebody who will cover something of Paul Verhoeven's. So yeah, we'll see. But let me know if there's a direct.
Everybody loves Showgirls.
It might be Showgirls. If you want Showgirls and Paul Verhoeven, let me know. I have a guest lined up for that one. So yeah, maybe that. But if there's another director and another guest you'd like on for another Wrong Direction, let me know, because I'm open to all the ideas, and we'll see if I agree with that, or maybe I'll pick the director like I did with Jack. I picked the director. No, he picked the director, I picked the film, I think it was. So I chose 1941, and I was right and wrong to pick that all at the same time. But yes, anyway, enough with Hollywood train crashes and car crashes and box office bombs. We're going to leave you now. But thank you guys, and you'll see me soon. Me and Mike are going to Forbidden Worlds, so check us out there. I don't know when those podcasts are coming out, or how frequent, or in what form, but they will be out sooner rather than later. And thank you for Andy doing all that he does, but make sure you're watching him as well as us. All right, bye-bye.